Y'all, welcome to Hoop Collective Podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Sunday evening. Apologies, we missed podcast on Friday. I was under the weather. Hopefully recovered now. And not much had happened in the NBA. I mean, it was just the first couple days of the season. We didn't miss anything. So what's the problem? Sorry. Anyway, joining us from the center, some people would call it the core state spectrum. I think that's what it was called when I first started covering the league, the core state spectrum. But maybe it was called something, or maybe that, I don't know, whatever it was. Is Tim Bontemps.
The Sixers would probably prefer to call it that than the Wells Fargo Center, which is what it's named. Glad you're feeling better, man. And it just gives us more to talk about today. So lots of
sure. You were at the Blazers visiting the Sixers today. Terrific game for Joel Embiid. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Joining us from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He was on hand to see the Nuggets work over the Oklahoma City Thunder in their home opener on Sunday. Is Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Watch the best big man in the league today. No offense to one Joel Embiid, but it's just a simple fact. One of them's got a ring. One of them's got twice as many MVPs. Good to be back with you, boys.
I'm just going to say that, was it on Friday? Jokic threw a 70-foot?
No, 33 yard. That kind of pass you measure in yards.
Well, the court isn't 33 yards, so but I know what you're saying.
It was a touchdown.
He inbounded the ball at the foul line.
He threw an alley-oop to Aaron Gordon from the opposite coach's box. That's what he did.
Yes.
From out of bounds and inbound.
Well,
yes.
And honestly, part of the crazy thing here was it's not like he got the ball from the ref and like scanned the floor and one, two. No, it was one motion. Got the ball from the ref and immediately went into John Elway mode and threw a bullet 33 yards down the floor. And by the way, the other crazy thing, Aaron Gordon caught a bullet and threw it down with one hand in one motion.
It was one of the sickest plays you'll see all season, and it was in the first couple days of the season.
Right. I realize that there's no way we can predict what highlights we might see this year, but I'll be damned if you see three or four more impressive than that one.
I'm not sure I've seen three or more. I'm not sure I've seen 3 or 4 more impressive passes ever, let alone honestly, this season.
Seriously, like after I saw that play, I was like, the rest of the NBA better get right with God, because I mean, the mastery that play was, and you know what? I'll bet he didn't even think about it. Like 4 seconds later.
Well, look, there were some questions about whether Denver was going to be sort of fat and happy early in the year, and what they were going to look like coming off the title. They look awesome and totally locked in, and obviously MacMahon saw them today. I got a chance to watch the
We'll
first
get to them in a minute.
They look beyond great.
All right. First, I want to start off with Philly's home opener tonight against the Blazers, which they won by like 30. The game itself wasn't that interesting. Bontemps, can you give us the Harden saga update? Because that is what, unfortunately, is a big part of your job at the moment.
James Harden was worked out the last few days as he was supposed to. He came to the team's pregame walkthrough and video session as he was supposed to. He sat on the bench today as he was supposed to, and we will see if he practices on Tuesday in 5-on-5 settings as he is supposed to. That will be the next check-in point. And they will not practice Monday. They will practice Tuesday and Wednesday, and then they play Nick Nurse's old team, the Toronto Raptors, for the second time in a handful of days on Thursday. And I believe that we'll either know if James Harden is going to play for the Sixers this season, and he plays in that game, and we talk about it on Friday's pod, or he will, for some reason, have not played in that game, and we will not be talking about James Harden playing for the Sixers at any point this season. That is my
where's that game
on how this is going to go. It is here in Philadelphia.
Ooh, good. Those airport visits are perilous for the Sixers these days. So glad you don't have an airport visit in the way. No airport visit. No, security won't get involved and stop them. No drama there. I tell you
Yeah.
what, man, James sitting on the bench, true, just consummate professional. Been a lot of professionalism, a lot of praise for his professionalism lately. I certainly think we can all appreciate that. This thing is just going as well as you could expect.
Well, look, I think to this point, I think it's gone. I don't think it's really caused any issues for the Sixers from a strictly a on-court basketball standpoint. I think they've been able to sort of put it to the side. They've gotten off to a nice start. Could have easily won in Milwaukee on Thursday. Won a nice back-to-back last two nights against Toronto and Portland. Joel Embiid was tremendous in both games after a pretty rough
hold on one
opening
second,
night.
real quick.
Yeah.
Embiid this is what Embiid's line was against Portland: 35 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 6 blocks, 29 minutes.
And that was in
After
3 quarters.
shrugging-
That was in 3 quarters.
And he shrugged off the temptation to rest, questionable for rest, game time decision.
Well,
Fought through the fatigue of the first week of the season.
I have to say, in
He was-
21
Put
years,
that line out there.
I got to say, in 21 years was the first time I ever heard a game time decision due to rest.
Well,
Because that's what the injury report said.
Joel Embiid is questionable to play a lot of the time, and he plays basically every time. He was always going to play in this game. I'm not sure why he was listed as questionable for rest as opposed to some ailment. I think the Sixers were giving themselves a bit of an out in case he felt terrible after getting back. I think they got back at 4 a.m. after getting through customs from Toronto last night. But Joel is often
decision.
Joel's a game time decision 40 games a year. That's my point. There's been countless games like today when I stand on the court. I stood at center court. I watched him come out at the 45-minute mark. He worked out for 10 minutes. He ran back in. He was immediately named in the starting lineup. This happens 30 to 40 times a season, including in playoff games. So he was going to always, and as he said after the game, it was going to take a heck of a lot for me to not play in the home opener, which he was always going to play in. And he was incredible in the game from start to finish.
He seemed to be very worried about DeAndre Ayton.
Oh boy.
He was not worried about DeAndre Ayton.
I think DeAndre Ayton's trade to Portland might fall under the category of be careful what you wish for. He's not seeing the ball a whole lot, doesn't seem like, with those young guards.
The Blazers are a mess on a variety of levels. So
we'll get there in a second. Back to Harden. I'm sorry I interrupted with how well Embiid was playing.
So look, I think so far this hasn't really been a huge issue for Philly. James hasn't caused any issues when he's been here to this point. Obviously, he's been in and out. It's been a little bit of a distraction, but it hasn't been something that they've been getting asked about endlessly, really. But I think, like I said earlier, I think this week is going to be the Rubicon moment, one way or the other, for this situation. Either he is going to play starting on Thursday and decide to be around and wait and see if he can get traded, or if something else happens and he doesn't play Thursday, I suspect he won't be playing anytime soon, if ever, for the Sixers. Because I think we're getting to the point with Tyrese Maxey looking absolutely fantastic so far. Banged his elbow today, didn't quite have the same kind of game he did in the first two, and yet he still finished with 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists, and that's a step down from his first 2 games. He looks like an all-star. The Sixers look great. They have really good chemistry on the court. Joel is playing great. I think they have every reason to hold pretty firm on what they're doing here. And up until now, they had some wiggle room with James because the season hadn't started yet, and they could sort of let this play out. But now that he's come back and he's worked out the last few days, I think we're going to find out maybe as soon as Tuesday. Is he going to practice fully? Is he going to go 5-on-5, as Nick Nurse said he needs to do today before the game? Or is he not? And I think if he doesn't, there's going to have to be some real conversations about this situation moving to the next phase, which is the Sixers saying, we have a really good team still. We're moving on. We're not going to deal with this anymore. Because I just don't see this situation lingering in this weird in-between where you're not sure what James Harden's going to do on a day-to-day basis for very much longer. I just don't see how that's tenable for them to do that.
Well, he didn't get his trade. He tried everything he possibly could to get his trade to the Clippers. The trade didn't happen. Doesn't mean that it won't happen, but as Woj reported this week, the Clippers have temporarily shut down discussions, although that's happened in the past. I think that's just a move on their part to settle their players down, which I think is what their move was over the summer too. Um, I'm sure it could still be rekindled within seconds, but there's no other move for him to make. I have felt all along that his best bet was to play for this team. We've said that, and
Absolutely.
I thought he was gonna do it. 2 weeks ago or whatever it was when he came in on that Friday, talked to the media, said I'm gonna ramp up and play.
Said my plan is to play basketball.
I was like, okay, I guess he's gonna do it. I'm surprised, but I guess he's gonna do it. Now I have no idea what'll happen. No idea.
He went home for a week and a half in between, and I will believe that James Harden will play to win for the Sixers when I see it. There's a difference between playing, being in uniform, being in the lineup, and actually giving a crap about the result of the game. I will believe that he gives a crap about the result of the game when I see it, because I've said it many times. When James Harden tells you he's quitting, believe him. And he keeps telling them, I'm quitting, I'm quitting, I'm quitting, I'm quitting. So,
and that's why we're going to find out this week, because I don't think this is going to go much farther than Thursday, one way or the other. I think we're either going to know he's playing and he's committed to playing, at least for a while, because I think to Brian's point, it would help make this trade happen if he's out there and playing well. That only would, in theory, incentivize a team like the Clippers. Say, hey, this guy looks good. He's out here playing. Maybe revisit this and do a trade at some point. Or something will happen this week, which, to your point, given James's history, it's very reasonable to think something will happen besides him practicing for 2 days and playing. And I think if he doesn't practice 2 days and play, I think we're reaching the point where somebody's going to have to stand up and say, this is not going to continue.
Right. By the way, Tobias Harris has been off to a pretty good start to this season. He had a good game today. He's shooting the ball really well. Small sample size, but
he looks like a guy who's very happy to have a different voice around, and somebody who from the beginning, and Nick Nurse has been encouraging him to shoot the ball and be aggressive and take part in the offense, and not be a guy who's sort of just standing there waiting to catch the ball on the wing and get a couple shots a game and then guard people. Like he looks like a guy who's engaged, and they across the board look like a team that's engaged. Kelly Oubre's playing the best basketball I've ever seen him play. He's been great so far. Maxi's been great. Joel is locked in. Like they're a really good team. We've talked about it a bunch of times. They have a lot of talent. This is a 50-win team even without James Harden. Like they won 50 games 2 years ago with Tyrese Maxey learning how to play point guard as a second-year player with the whole Ben Simmons thing going on. This team is better than that team. Joel's better than he was then. Mm-hmm. So, they're in a good place. They feel good, but I'm going to have to come down here a lot this week. And I think by the time we pod Thursday night after that game, I think we'll have a much, much more certain feel of where this thing is going. Right? We might even know definitively where it's going by then.
By the way, Oubre had a good year last year. It was interesting to me that nobody wanted to pay him anything.
Yeah. Bench scorer for the minimum. That's a nice little addition for them.
Well, and the bigger thing than that is he's really guarding well and staying in control on he's been fantastic so far, frankly. It's hard to know he's going to play like this all the way through, but if he's anywhere close to this all season, that's going to be one of the real bargain deals of the summer, because he's playing like a legitimate, top 8 team playoff rotation kind of guy through training camp in the first couple games of the season.
All right. So Blazers are 0-3. That's no big deal. They're in a rebuild mode, what have you. Scoot Henderson, 27 minutes in this game, 4 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, is not off to a great start. Very early. Yeah. Very, very early. Chauncey Billups, his coach, has challenged him, called him out a little bit after game 1. Is not shooting the ball well at all. I think he's shooting. I don't have to do the math, but I think
I can tell you he's shooting 10 for 30 from the field, and he's shooting like 1 for 12 from 3.
Sounds like single digit percentage.
I was going to say, I can't do the math, but it's single digits.
It's 7.5%. I mean, look, he's a young guy. He's young guards. We've talked about this a lot of times. I mean, I'm watching De'Aaron Fox right now play against the Lakers, coming back in after twisting his ankle. And, De'Aaron Fox early on in his career didn't look great. You look at a lot of these young guards or these elite guards in the league, they struggle early on. It's a very hard thing to do. So it's going to take Scoot some time. I think he's going to be more than fine. Jaden Sharp's off to a nice start. With Anthony Simons hurt, he's going to get a chance to play 30, 35 minutes a game starting next to Scoot. It was funny. Chauncey got asked before the game about those two young guys and said, it was like, hey, how does it, what is it like having two really young guards like this playing together? And he was like, well, look, it's fun a lot of times. And then it's also hurtful a lot of times because you're watching them make some painful mistakes. And
right.
For a Blazer team,
Anthony Simons, Anthony Simons, you just said it in passing, but he tore his ligament in his thumb, which is kind of a common injury, unfortunately, in the NBA. Got to have surgery, and it's 4 to 6 weeks. It was 4 to 6 weeks 20 years ago. It'll probably be 4 to 6 weeks in 20 years. It's a common injury, but that does create more playing time for Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson. But maybe
they're going to lose
the ideal situation for their team.
They're going to, I mean, it is the ideal situation for the team, frankly, because those guys need to play 35 minutes a game together. And this team is going to be awful and lose a ton of games and get another super high draft pick to go with these other guys that they've got up and down the roster, where they've got some really intriguing players, which, by the way, includes Toumani Camara, the guy they got from the Suns in the DeAndre Ayton trade as a throw-in, as a second-round pick, who is pretty interesting and did some stuff today, and frankly, looks like a guy who could be playing for the Suns.
Well, he would have been playing for the Suns. I thought, when I went through Phoenix, like the guy the Suns coaching staff was sick about losing in that trade. It was the rookie second rounder, not the number 1 overall pick on a max deal. But look, Portland's going to be bad this year. They're going to take their lumps. You hope that Scoot and Sharp and, the other young guys learn from them and grow from them. And then they have another very high lottery pick to go with them next year. Like that. That's all we need to say about the Blazers. They're not like
it's exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
It's okay. It's year 1 of a massive rebuild.
And the other thing too, just watching this game, I hope Robert Williams gets traded at some point this year, because he is still a really impactful player. I mean, he was out there making some defensive plays today, and if he's the 8th guy coming off the bench on this team, I just hope he ends up on a playoff team this year and has a chance to make an impact. Because I'm watching it. We talked about it the other day after the Steven Adams thing came out. Like, imagine Robert Williams or Jaren Jackson Jr. in Memphis, team that's not off to such a great start, by the way. Like, that would be pretty fun to watch. And that's just one example of a team that could use them.
You got to figure they're going to trade Malcolm Brogdon at some point.
You'd think they'll both get traded at some point.
Oh, no. We're deep into the narrative of Malcolm Brogdon as the great veteran mentor. Nope. We're deep into that narrative. Can't trade him.
Right.
No, sir.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see what happens there. Okay, MacMahon, I want to talk to you because the Thunder were off to a pretty good start, 2-0. They had a tremendous come-from-behind win in Cleveland over the weekend, where they were down 10 points with 2 minutes left and won it. Real gut punch to the Cavs. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, but really Chet and Shai making some terrific plays.
Lou Dort was huge in that game offensively.
Lou Dort is just, there's nothing that Lou Dort is doing now that we haven't already seen. But
except for making jump shots.
He made jump shots last year. He's consistently made more and more. That's why they extended him in the offseason, one of the reasons. Anyway, Holmgren with his first performance, blocked 7 shots in that game in Cleveland.
And on Twitter said there should have been more.
He said it on Twitter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I was like, he very with an edge tweeted at the NBA, like, you better go back and look and make sure that you counted all my blocks.
Clarified he doesn't care about stats, but hey,
Right. But I
No,
was
listen,
like,
hey,
is that from, I was like, wait a minute, is that from tonight? Like, I saw the tweet and I was like, was he talking about tonight's game? Because in tonight's game, he got credit for 7 blocks.
I think he had 8 or 9. I actually went back and looked.
Well, but I was thinking, well, because he had none in game 1. I was thinking, oh, maybe what he's saying is that he should have had a couple in game 1 and there's 7 in game 2 is proof of that. No, he was saying I was undercounted with 7. It's crazy.
Listen, stats matter in rookie of the year races, and I do believe there will be one of those this year, gentlemen.
Oh, there
Well,
absolutely
he
will
had
be.
none
There's no
on
question about that.
he had none on Jokic in this game today. Because Jokic eviscerated him. He eviscerated every member of the Thunder.
And honestly, the one thing that went well for the Thunder in this game, they got annihilated. It was a tough night. Shea was terrible. It was maybe his worst game. Thunder
2 of 16 shooting for Shea.
The one thing that went well was Chet in the first half also eviscerated Jokic. Now, not enough to make up for what was happening on the other end, but it was kind of a reminder. The couple of centers in the league who you say, man, Chet at 212 maybe is going to have a real tough time defending those guys. He's going to be able to stretch them out and challenge them. But no, I mean, listen, the Thunder were no match for the Nuggets. The Nuggets, like the Thunder basically are starting Chet with 4 guards. And against a team like the Nuggets, where you have Joker, Aaron Gordon, and Dennis Rodman with a jump shot. And by that, I mean Michael Porter Jr., who is rebounding like a madman. Like the size mismatch is just insane. And I mean, Joker, he looks like he still has to sweat off some of that Serbian summer and the championship parade still. Like he's, looks a little heavy, and he's just absolutely dominant. Like the guy is lumbering and laboring, and you look up at halftime and it's 22-9-4. He's ridiculous. He's just.
They shot 60% today, and Michael Malone after the game was, basically tipping his cap. Who knows how long it'll last, but there's no hangover in the early going here. They look like they're the same team that stepped off the court in June.
It sort of reminds me of the 15-16 Warriors a little bit. I mean, a team that won the title, got sort of questioned for winning the title, and they come out the next year and they're stomping people. And I'm not saying they're going to go for 73 wins, but they look like they're out to prove some points.
Right. And the starting 5 is the same, and those guys fit so well together. There's continuity there. Like I said, just perfect fit. Joker's the best player in the world. Murray, perfect compliment to him. Gordon on down the line, and then you've got young, hungry guys coming off the bench. Christian Brown went from like 8th man to 6th man. Reggie Jackson,
Watson.
Yeah, Reggie
Peyton
Jackson
Watson had a big day today.
Yeah, Peyton Watson is basically a redshirt rookie. I mean, he barely played last year, and he might be the best shot blocking wing since Andrei Kirilenko. It's a very kind of a niche category, but he's this 6'8" athletic guy who's got just like this knack for. Now, if you talk to people with the Nuggets, they're like, yeah,
it was one of the best shot blocking. Well, I don't know if you could say that Dwayne Wade was a wing.
Well, right. Dwayne Wade's the best shot blocking guard of all time. Although John Wall tried to claim that thing, but we're not giving it to him since he took that cheap shot to my back while I was doing this stand up.
And we've never heard from him again.
That's right. Last shot of his career.
Eric White's making a push for being in that conversation too.
There you go. But like Peyton Watson is 6'8", super athletic, like is swatting shots. Now the Nuggets coaches are like, dude, you don't get extra like bonus points if it goes into the 10th row. What we actually would like is if it stays in bounds and then we're transitioning the other way, but still 17 points a day. It looks like he's developing kind of a feel and an understanding of when and how to cut, which if you're playing with Joker is pretty critical for a wing player. Reggie Jackson's off to a really good start. He never really got his feet under him after he ended up in Denver last year. Like the Nuggets are the defending champions, and they're the kings, and I mean kings. They have the crown until somebody knocks it off their head.
So you went after the game. I think you talked to Jokic about Chet Holmgren, who, the thing about Holmgren isn't just that he's 7'2", or that he can shoot threes or he can block shots and everything.
Mhm.
It's that he isn't afraid of anything.
No.
Super confident, not
Tough.
maybe tough. He's going to have challenges because of his bulk, but
right.
Very impressive right from the start here. And I thought you could maybe let us in on what Jokic said about him.
Yeah. Now, the way I've always described Holmgren is you might be able to move him around, but you can't intimidate him.
That's
Joker
right.
can absolutely move him around, right? And did.
Man, and Nick Vucevic did the other day too when they played. Another similar kind of guy.
And so, I'm talking to Joker and just kind of ask him what he thinks about OKC, and then not specifically about Chet. And very complimentary of him, talks about what a unique talent he is, yada, yada, yada. He does mention might want to put on some weight. And I said, you got any diet tips? He said, eat bad food.
Well, that's not exactly how he said it.
It is how he said it.
Well, that's not the quote that I saw.
Well, tell me the quote you saw. I don't have a transcript.
He said, to be honest, he needs to get fatter.
Yes. Eat bad food. That's what he said.
Right. But I mean, he didn't say bulk up. He says he needs to get fatter.
Yeah. Needs to put. Chet has an inverted booty. Like the thing. I mean, the guy is super skinny. Seriously. Yeah. Jackson put in the chat, he's listed at 195. I do think he's bulked up to 212. Like, the kid is skinny.
Oh, really?
There's no doubt. He's obviously he had a year where he's working on his body. So yeah, and he'll fill out some. He's never going to be, Mark Eaton. Like, he's not going to fill out and be 300-pounder or anything like that. But he'll fill out some. But again, he is tough. Like, despite being super skinny, he is tough. Defensive instincts are phenomenal, and he's a very skilled 7-foot basketball player.
Listen, when he was
real
drafted,
timely Mark Eaton reference too.
Yeah, I was thinking of like a huge Greg Ostertag. All right, like a huge, plotting.
Another super timely reference.
Okay, I don't know, Andre Drummond. Okay, who crossed him up, by the way.
Yeah, that's a better reference. That's a better reference.
If when Chet was drafted, we would have thought in his third game he'd be the primary defender on Jokic. I think that would be pretty surprising.
Well, I'll also say this is a game when Jalen Williams, the second-round pick, would have been really nice to be able to throw it on the floor. He's got a hamstring he's dealing with. He hadn't played yet this year. So it's not like, they could, hey, Olivier Sarr on a two-way contract. Come on.
I understand it, but I think it's the point that they're playing him at center.
Right. But I'm saying if they wanted to play a too big lineup, it'd be Jalen Williams, who's not available right now.
Well, and
Poku got a little bit of playing time.
Yeah, he's not exactly a big.
No, but yeah, I mean, look, Chet playing center full time. We've talked about it a few times since the start of the preseason. One of the big questions coming into this year for me was going to be how much center could he realistically play, and what because of what it could potentially mean for the Thunder if he could play there full time. And the fact that he, from the start of training camp, and Jalen Williams has been out there some of the time. I know he's hurt now, but from the jump, it's been Chet's our center. We're playing our 5 best guys. This is what we're doing. That is such a potential game changer thing for the Thunder long term. Like, it really can't be overstated how important it is. And yeah, look, he obviously doesn't have the weight to hold up right now with Jokic. Same thing, like I said the other day, playing Nick Vucevic and Andre Drummond, 2 bigger guys. They're able to kind of body him around a little bit.
Yeah, they beat the Bulls by 20 and forced the players on the meeting.
Well, right, but that's the thing, right? Him playing center and giving them that rim protection inside. By the way, when he had those 7 blocks against the Cavs, you mentioned how Peyton Watson's knocked him out of bounds. Every one of them saved in bounds to a teammate to go the other way.
And he was matched up with Mobley, and Mobley played okay in that game, pretty well. But he got the best of Evan Mobley in that game.
Sure did. And
Mobley had his first, by the way, as a quick aside, Mobley had his first 30-10 game Saturday night. against the
playing
Pacers.
the 5, which without out, again, I think we might be seeing a glimpse of the Cavs' future there.
I made that noise not at that point, but as this Lakers-Kings game is in overtime, JaVale McGee tipped the ball out to LeBron James on the run at center court, like he was still on the Lakers, which was amusing. But look, to MacMahon's point about the Rookie of the Year race, I think Chet is more than a viable guy to win that award. And I think when you look at the way he's playing right now as a center, the way he's able to physically be imposing at both ends with his size inside right now, I think you can make a real argument. He's just better than Victor right now. And he might be better than Victor for a while. Now, Victor's got an immense ceiling, and his fluidity offensively gives him a chance to be an otherworldly kind of player. But the fact that Chet is playing center at both ends and picking and popping like he is and nailing shots and impacting the game at the rim, like it's just such a massive game changer for the Thunder that it really could be a significant thing in the West as soon as this year for where the Thunder are going to be.
And the advantage of playing Chet at center is on the offensive end, where you have these big guys who have to defend him, and he is 7 foot, whatever, 1, 2, whatever they list him at, with guard skills. And again, not like, hey, clear out, let Chet go to work, but pick and pop, can stretch the floor, can absolutely attack a closeout, especially
both Victor and Chet, if they get the rebound, their teams feel they can bring it up the court. They don't even have to push it. They can bring it up and start it.
So your point on closeouts, MacMahon, Chet had a great catch, attack, and dunk on the wing today. Same sort of situation. Like got a little bit of a seam and took it and went right to the rim.
And if we're talking about
Şengün in Houston, by the way, does the same thing. Like it's becoming. I think he had 7 or 8 assists for the Rockets tonight against the Warriors. The Warriors won in Houston, but it's becoming like the thing now. Over 7 foot. You're, obviously Jokic. You're expected to be able. If you're
hard to have a negative offensive player on the court now,
right? Like or a negative ball handler.
Yeah, and honestly, like 7-footers who can't shoot the ball, it's crazy. If you're not a stretch 5 at this point, you better be a hell of a rim runner.
Totally.
And again, we're getting way ahead of ourselves on Rookie of the Year and all that kind of stuff. But Chet is obviously in a much better situation as far as the fit with the team, and the Thunder they got their ass whooped today, but they're going to be good. Are they 45 wins good? Are they 48, 50? I've talked to some scouts and executives who do think they're a top 4 team in the West. We'll see. But when it gets down to the end of the year, if it's close and people are looking for a tiebreaker, Chet will be able to contribute to winning more this year than Vic. For the simple fact that he's on a team
on a way better team. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's also remember it's not quite apples to apples. You mentioned a minute ago that 195 was probably what he came in as a rookie, and he's 212. That didn't happen in training.
Yeah, the extra year is a significant thing for sure.
Yes. The last rookie to make the All-Star team was Blake Griffin because he was in his second year.
Yeah.
And of course, you remember Ben Simmons, he won the Rookie of the Year in his second year because he missed his first year. So saying that Chet's ahead of Victor right now is in my view is not a controversial position. You'd expect him to be.
No. And again, it's more so also just that the Thunder are ahead of the Spurs.
Yes, I think the Spurs are going to take a lot of losses.
Yeah, they're much further into the rebuild. And they've got an all-NBA first-team guy.
The Spurs lost by 40 against the Clippers in LA on Sunday.
They beat the Phase 2 Rockets the other day, though.
They did. And in overtime, Victor got the game to overtime with sort of a bully ball post move, and then made several big plays in overtime. That was that same night, Friday night, by the way, just an absolutely glorious night in the NBA. Like 7 or 8 terrific things happened that night. Some 40-point performances. Luka, by the way, Luka with one of my favorite Luka moments on the podium I've ever seen. And you can feel free, Mr. MacMahon, to say this is better, but I don't know if you saw the highlight. The game is basically hanging in the balance.
Tied up.
there's very good defense being played by the Nets. Like they've
by his
smothered
good
like
friend and former teammate Dorian Finney-Smith, both hands in his face.
right, but they tried to run 2 or 3 actions on that play,
Yes.
and the Nets smothered them. And Luka basically throws up a one-handed
shot clock running down. It was like a 3/4 arm, like you see a reliever coming out of the bullpen, right? And like Luka, even when he was celebrating, did this thing with his wrist, like he's throwing a curveball, because he kind of like flicked his wrist like that. The thing goes way up, banks off the glass. And so the podium thing, we talked to Dorian Finney-Smith afterwards, and the guy spent the first 6.5 years of his career in Dallas. Him and Luka are tight. They were actually going to dinner that night. And Dodo's like, I ain't talking about basketball at dinner. I'll just take the L. I ain't talking about basketball. But he said, hell no, he ain't called glass. He said, don't even let him say he called glass. So we asked Luka about that. And Luka said, I said it in Slovenian, so he couldn't understand it.
I didn't see that. That's a great line.
Rare W on the podium for Luka. I love
it. No, I will say this. Luka is a trash talker. Obviously, you see that. Like, he's always had this
but
sense
not
of
on
humor.
The podium.
He's always had this sense of humor with his teammates. Over the last year, you have to get him in a good mood. When he's in a good mood, Luka likes to be funny and likes to have the one-liners. Most of the time, he just doesn't want to talk to us, which is fine. It is what it is. But he's starting to come along to like, might as well do it. Might as well have fun with it.
Well, anyway, on Friday, Victor forced overtime, made a couple of plays in overtime. The Spurs got their first win. They won at home against Houston. Now they had to go out west. Clippers on Sunday. And I think they play the Suns in 2 games. I think they play a baseball series in Phoenix next couple of days. But the Spurs defense has been wretched in the first 3 games. Even with Luka playing okay at rim defense and getting some blocks, although in this game,
you mean Victor?
What's it?
Victor.
I'm sorry.
You said Luka.
Apologies.
Yeah,
we
just
bounce it around like crazy.
Luka doesn't protect the rim.
Yeah, it wasn't a hard guess.
Luka's rim defense has been poor. I think we can say that. But anyway, he laid an egg in this one. This was his. He had in the first half he had 2 points and 4 turnovers. I think.
Yeah.
And, only had 11 points in this game. The Spurs, I think, are going to take some losses because they just don't defend. I know the idea was they would get Luka and it would make a difference, and it has made some.
Vic,
but over the first
Luka again.
One is French and 7-3. One is Slovenian and 6-7.
You discovered this guy. You should know his name.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You'll never get 90 seconds with Luka. I can promise you that.
You got that right. So I mean, it's something that we'll keep an eye on. I still think, in this game tonight was a 40-point game. Victor still had a jaw-dropping play where he finished an alley-oop from half court or something like there. I don't know if it was exactly half court. So
he's gonna have those every game, and there's gonna be a lot of struggles in between, which is fine. Yeah. Like it's not the end of the world.
And the Spurs are in total experiment phase. Like they're starting Jeremy Sohan at point guard. And there's whether he ends up being a guy who can be a starting point guard or he just ends up being a point forward type of guy, like there's going to be long-term benefit to that. But it's not a way to try to win games right now. And like they get that. Yep. They'll have a high lottery pick. They might have like a mid-lottery pick from the Raptors. That thing's top 6 protected. And then this year's figuring out like who fits with Victor, how do they fit with Victor, and maybe who maybe should the Spurs move on from.
Well, and the other long-term question with Victor to focus on is his shooting. I know everybody looks at his shot and thinks he's a knockdown, terrific shooter. He didn't shoot the ball great in games in Europe last year. He shot under 30% from 3. And so far this season, he's 3 for 13. Line. Right. And this so far this season, again, 3 games. I'm not saying anything is permanent, but he went 3 for 5 in the first game, the game you were at in San Antonio against Dallas. And he's 0 for 8 over the last 2. He went 0 for 6 against Houston from 3, and he went 0 for 2 today. And if he's a 23 to 28% 3-point shooter, that's much different than if he's a 35 to 42% 3-point shooter, because that totally changes the geometry of the court. So
now I don't
see where that ends
believe-
up.
in France last year, he took a lot of those crazy, like one-legged running.
He did a
threes.
little bit. He got infatuated with it like early to mid season, but he did abandon it.
Okay, I don't
I know.
think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he's taken any of those with the Spurs.
No, and I think he kind of retired it. Maybe not
Right.
forever, but I think he put it on the shelf. And I know I think Pop has said he really hasn't put any limitations on him offensively. But that's one is he doesn't
Well,
want to
and,
take
and,
another
and
shot.
again, it's one of those things where it's like, you're taller than everybody by several inches. You really don't need to get creative to get your three off. Like what you do is you turn and you shoot over them.
Right.
But it was interesting.
I'll say something about this. I asked him about it when I first went over there in January. And because at the time he was sort of into it. And I thought his answer that he gave at that time was fascinating. And what he said is that he knows that when he gets to the NBA, that teams are going to take away the things that he likes doing. That they're going to, even despite his size advantage, they're going to learn his tendencies and they're going to learn, how to try to keep the ball from him or how to try to force him to do certain things. And he was already in his mind, now maybe a little bit too far ahead. He was working on a countermeasure. He's like, the great players in history have great countermeasures. And so even though it's not maybe the ideal countermeasure situation that you got there, that's what he was developing it for. And that he's not saying that in retrospect. He was saying that in the moment.
Yeah.
So
no, and look, he's proven over even already in the short time we've seen him, he's proven that he is a guy who's going to be determined to get as good as he can and put in the work and improve his game. It's not like it's a pretty easy bet he's going to become one of the all-time great players if he stays healthy. But the shooting component is really the key to it. Like if it sits around 30%, it's just his ceiling is a lot different than if it gets to where his shot looks like it can get to. Because if he becomes a 38 to 40% shooter from three, then it's like, then everything opens up.
Yeah, he was 0 of 6 on Friday in that Houston game. But he got to the foul line 8 times in that game. He got to the foul line 6 times in this one. His shooting percentages are probably going to come up a little bit, obviously, but getting to the foul line is something that is hard for young players, particularly rookies, but something that he really succeeded in doing.
He got a real gift on 2 of those free throws today. I mean, Russ came over and I thought he was going to yam one on Russ, and instead he tried to do this weird jujitsu move around him and flung the ball off the backboard. And the officials claim that Russ totally threw him off by hitting him on the leg. So I was like, come on this. But
but the other thing about Victor, we talked about the experiment with Sohan at point guard. Like at a certain point, he's going to to maximize his ability. You're going to need somebody to set the table for him. Like you're going to need a really good passing point guard, somebody he can run 2-man game with to get him good looks. I watched his full pregame warm up before the opener, and I did, and so did I think 1,000 other media members. Like honestly, Steph Curry's warm ups became a thing, and especially playoffs and stuff. You'd see people lining the court. The only other time I've seen anything like that was Steph. There was hundreds of people lining the court.
And it was his first game. It was kind of a big occasion.
Right. Now. But anyways, I was getting to this. I think he went 0 for 42 on pull-up threes during his warm-up.
I have to say, when I saw him play in the preseason, he didn't look good in his 3-point warm-ups either. Not that I'm gonna
I got a similar report from somebody who was at the game today also.
But hey, you're 7 foot whatever. If you're not a great pull-up 3-point shooter, okay, that's a flaw you can live with. If he ends up being just a catch and shoot 3 guy at that size,
he's
awesome.
played a week. He's played a week.
For sure. We're saying that. But for people who want to follow his season, I think that's the most important thing to follow is watch his shooting and see where it ends up at the end of the year. Because look, he might shoot 38% over the final 3 months of the season. It wouldn't shock me at all if he makes significant improvements.
And we talked about the advantage of Chet playing center offensively for the Thunder. And so with the Spurs, Victor's a power forward. And that's how he's listed, and that's what he plays. When they played the Mavericks, he got in foul trouble. He was not much of a factor for the first 3 quarters. Then he came into the fourth quarter, and there was about a 3-minute stretch where he played center. And coincidence or not, that's when he got cooking. And, long term, down the road, I think he will play a lot of center, and he's going to have a massive advantage on the offensive end matchup-wise when he's in those situations. Having said that, I understand as a rookie, they don't necessarily want him to take that kind of physical wear and tear, that kind of pounding. Zach Collins is a good player. I get that pairing early on. I just think, again, as he gets into his 20s, it will be interesting to see how much he plays center and how much he plays with another big.
Every time I see Victor play right now, I think about the Flip Saunders sort of apocryphal story about Kevin Garnett when he met with him as a rookie and said, you're going to start out your career playing small forward. You're going to be an MVP and an all-time great as a power forward. You're going to finish your career as a center. And watching Victor, it just every time I see him when he's, kind of popping around the perimeter, taking jumpers, like that's what I have in my head. Like when he's 25, like he's going to be a totally different guy physically. And he'll be a full-time power forward. And right now, he's probably more of a 3, and that's it's totally fine. It's all totally fine.
That's good stuff. All right, before we go, October 29th, 2003, LeBron James played in Sacramento to open his career. October 29th, 2023, the NBA puts LeBron James in Sacramento. That first game, 25 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds. I believe he was 12 of 21 that night. Tonight, 11 of 19, 20 years on, 27 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists, 8 turnovers. He did not have 8 turnovers.
How many minutes? I know they're keeping him at 30.
39. Well, it was overtime.
Oh, well, gee.
Well, this is the thing. Bad loss for the Lakers. Domantas Sabonis fouls out. De'Aaron Fox doesn't finish the game, limped off with an ankle injury after he came back and played. And they're playing the Magic tomorrow, Monday, I guess Monday tonight with the pod, at home in LA. I got to wonder if LeBron is playing in that game, right? I mean, 39 minutes, front half of a back-to-back. They're talking about being worried about his minutes. Understandably, the guy's playing in his 20th season in the league, or 21st season, I don't remember, 20 years since his debut. If he isn't playing that game, they might be looking at 1-3 in 24 hours. Which wouldn't be great.
How was your game story?
By the way, Austin Reeves. What's that?
How was your game story that night? Your first NBA game story.
It was rough, man, because I had to file the buzzer.
West Coast newspaper deadlines, man.
It was not good.
Not good.
I in all honesty, real talk, my first week, I mean, I had done preseason games, but I was 25 and it was a 3-game road trip at Sac, at Phoenix, at Portland. And my production that week was not strong.
I don't want to hear it, Wendy. Listen, you were covering high school football.
Wendy,
as a man who's covered high school football, you're keeping your own stats and writing on deadline. Come on.
Listen, Wendy out at the clubs as a 25-year-old, just having the production,
he got that
not
NBA
behind
beat, and he went straight into diva mode. Straight into.
Hey, listen, I was questioning whether I was going to be able to pull this off. To be honest with you, Austin Reeves, by the way, 1 of 12 tonight. Is not off to a strong start and not playing that much.
You know what? It's like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like a lot of these guys that were Team USA are not off to great starts. I don't know if there's
Aaron Jackson is not playing well.
Yeah. And Edwards hasn't gotten off to a great start.
Jalen Brunson had 1 good game.
And small sample size. I don't know if there's any kind of correlation. I'm just saying.
Well, here's what I'm getting to, because we're not going to focus too much on the Lakers at this point. They are 1-2, but so Arco Arena, where that game was 20 years ago tonight, has been razed. It's gone. LeBron James, trivia here, guys. LeBron James there's 9 arenas that are either gone or no longer used since LeBron got into the league.
Man, the whiz of the
Can
quiz.
you tell me
He's
these
taking your
arenas? You don't.
spot.
I mean, the names have changed or whatever, but I'll give you. And I'm gonna say there's one. There's two. One that I'll be surprised if you get, just for one reason, and then there's sort of a trick one. But
So he played in
can you
Seattle.
get the 9 arenas that are?
Seattle's one.
There's the trick one I didn't think you would get. So
Yeah.
right out of the gate.
I mean, come on, you can't like.
That one's not
All
that
right,
hard.
Key Arena is gone. Arco Arena is gone. That's
So it's 7 others. Those are 2 of the 9.
Orlando's is gone.
That's 3.
Detroit's is gone.
4.
Milwaukee's
Milwaukee.
is gone.
5. Those are all torn down.
New Jersey.
That's 6. Is that torn down, Bontemps?
It's not torn down, but it's
Okay.
and actually they played in 2 arenas in Jersey. So if you want to count 2, that's they also played in Newark. The arenas exist, but they're not playing NBA teams there. NBA games aren't played there
I guess
anymore.
that's true. I didn't think of the Prudential Center. He did play there, so maybe it's 10. I don't know how.
Oh, you're saying so the Oracle does not count on this list?
It
No,
does.
that counts.
Okay.
7.
No, Oracle.
Scrolling through here to look.
Can't wait till we can add San Antonio to this list.
When did the
we say
Mavs arena
Orlando?
open, MacMahon?
I don't think he played in Old Reunion Arena.
No, he did not. He
Yeah.
has always played in the American Arena Center.
Did we say Orlando?
You did at the beginning.
Okay.
Was
did
the Alamo Dome open?
No. Say he I think it was 2 or 3 years. I think it was called the SBC Center when he first started playing there.
Got it.
Indiana?
Nope, it's always been. I think it was Conseco Fieldhouse when he first started playing there.
All right.
The one real tough one you guys haven't gotten yet, like the one I would be impressed that I've already in my head prepared a hint, but there's I think there's one more.
How many do we have to go? We got
I think you've got 2.
2 left. Okay, give us hints. It's hint time.
One of them,
Charlotte.
He played in the Charlotte Coliseum.
Charlotte Coliseum. Yeah.
For a year. Okay, there's one left, and the hint is this building is still standing, and I believe it's partially used as a hotel now.
Partially used as a hotel?
It's in the Western Conference.
But can we get points at this property?
Is it?
No.
Well, it's not New Orleans.
In the Western Conference, Minnesota's place?
No, it's Minnesota wishes it was.
It's not. Yeah,
The
it's not
Delta
that
Center?
one.
Or the old whatever the hell Utah's?
No, I mean,
No,
LeBron's been around so long. It was a Delta
no.
Center, then it was 2 other
Now
things.
it's the
now
Delta
back to
Center
the Delta
again.
Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I'll
It's
give
not
you want
that.
one more hint.
Yeah.
It's now a Bass Pro Shops.
Oh,
Memphis.
Memphis.
The Forum, the Pyramid. Oh, that
Pyramid.
one.
Yeah.
I'm mad I didn't get that one. That's a good one.
LeBron played one game in the Pyramid, and what I remember about that night, LeBron's teammate was DeJuan Wagner at the time. It was LeBron's rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
And we were walking to the locker room post game to do the interviews. And John Calipari, who was the head coach at University of Memphis at the time, which used the Pyramid as their arena as well, was going to the Cavs locker room with us to talk to DeJuan Wagner, to go see DeJuan Wagner, who had played for him at Memphis. And he didn't have a credential. He didn't have a pass. And the security guard wouldn't let him back.
That's
John
great.
Calipari in his arena, couldn't get to the locker room. Anyway, so yeah,
Sure, Cal
9
handled that
arenas.
really well.
Actually, I won't comment on that. But I think, actually, I guess Bontemps, I didn't consider the Prudential Center. That was sort of a transitional, a gap arena, if you will.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, that's how I know I'm getting old. Is all these arenas are getting torn down. So, but
Yeah, the gray
the
hairs in my
Lakers,
hand.
the Lakers, I don't think their team is as deep as maybe was perceived.
You mean they didn't have the greatest offseason in the history of humankind this offseason, like we were led to believe?
as I said, their offseason was fine.
Listen, all I know is this: Christian Wood, KD stopper, baby. He is front runner for Defensive Player of the Year after what I saw against the Suns. Hey, Wood was a plus 12 in 14 minutes tonight. I wonder why I only played 14 minutes.
Good question.
Didn't miss a shot from the field. 3 for 3, 2 for 2, 3 for 3.
Yeah.
They got to give him more time. That's the only answer to that.
I know one man who would agree with that.
I know a couple. All right. To be continued as the season is in full swing. We're going to try again for 3 podcasts this week. We'll see if we get it done.
Yeah. Well,
hopefully we stay healthy.
I know a couple guys who are always available.
Hey, man, I was unavailable on Friday or Thursday.
Saying.
We're just glad you're feeling better, pal.
Listen, we you got AC Green here with you, baby.
In some ways, not others.
Oh, God.
We won't go into what AC stands for.
Jeez.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Hoop Collective podcast. Thank you to Bontemps. Thank you to Jackson. Thank you to MacMahon. We will talk to you in a few days.
Adios, amigos.